going to go to our next question, and Ms. Howell, you'll be the first one to answer this question. How will you foster collaboration and communication in a district that is so rapidly growing?
It's important to establish a priority for collaboration at every level. And as a district, when a district is growing rapidly, it has to be a very thoughtful process and very intentional in terms of making sure you get input at every level. And to check in constantly in terms of how people are feeling relative to the level of collaboration. It's very critical to involve people, especially who are affected by decisions. And as a community is growing, the school district is growing, sometimes you can lose sight of it. So you have to have mechanisms in place to check the level of communication and the type of communication that families want, staff want, and are you successful in it. So it has to be a very, very conscious, intentional, deliberate focus to be able to emphasize the importance of collaboration, put formal and informal systems in place. And first I would see what exists now, and what is the level of collaboration, what is the level of communication, where are the gaps, and how can we fill them, and how can we intentionally revisit where are we at in terms of getting input from all of our constituents, all of our stakeholders, and are we communicating, and do we need to find different ways to communicate so we can keep everybody informed. So it has to be very, very intentional when you're in a situation that a district is growing.
Thank you, Ms. Howell. Mr. Poore.
Well, I think that when you look at a district like this that's not only growing, but it's very diverse in terms of having a rural component. It also has a suburban type feel. It has a very diverse population as well. There are students that are free and reduced lunch and coming from families that are challenged right now. And it has some families that are very well-to-do. Ethnicity, okay, it's a part of this district. So how do you combine all those things? Well, I think that you do that by building on strengths and then also sharing, here's where we're headed. So it's a process that I've used in Sheridan, and then we've done it to some degree in District 11 as well, which is called appreciative inquiry. And what you do is you talk to different stakeholders. It doesn't just have to be a superintendent. It could be the board, it could be some of the other senior staff, it could be principals. And it's a way that you can actually keep this thing going for all time and time again. You ask people, you have conversations, you have forums that say, what is it that you most value about this district? And where is it that you want to go? Now, when you have those kind of conversations and the information that's shared and brings in, that creates your direction. It's not about what's screwed up. We can talk about what's screwed up, we're never going to get anywhere. But if we can talk about what it is that we do well, and what is it that we want to aspire to, now we've got a chance to really go and do some things. Now, right along with that then, I think you need a superintendent that can communicate that out. There's a variety of different ways that has to happen. One is just visibility, of being out and working and being in the community and engaging in a variety of different places, from athletic events to walking around in neighborhoods. The other thing is that you have to set up environments to be able to have people be able to contribute and really collaborate. In District 11, you can look and say, look what he's done on task force, look what he's done on think tanks, summits, community and town hall meetings, trying to have the community engaged to help us create that direction. The final thing is, when you think about this communication thing, we also need to remember that there's a generation of people that communicate much differently than those of us in our audience right now. And if we want to communicate with our young people, the 20 to 30 range, because we have parents there, and also the kids who are in our school, we better have some things like blogging and those type of things to engage them and communicating and keeping them active and being a part of creating this collaborative environment that we seek in this district.
Thank you, Mr. Poore. Mr. Sheppy.
A lot of the things that have already been said are the same things that I would agree with also that we have done in our district. I think it is extremely important to involve everybody in decision-making processes. And one of the biggest things is, I think a lot of times you have to go to them, okay? You can't set up, this district especially is so big. It covers so much area, and you've got to make it convenient for people, to give their input. People are busy nowadays. I mean, families are busy and doing a lot of stuff. And if we really want their input, we're going to have to make it convenient for them. And that means, you know, if we're doing a task force, we move around where those task force are meeting. If we're doing town halls, if we're doing coffees, to just hear what's going on in the district, I think we have to do that so that we make sure that we hear everybody's voice in that process. I also think it's important that for not just parents, but for the business community, how are they providing input into the district to tell us, you know, how we're doing and where we're going? There's just so many opportunities, you know, to be involved in the Chamber of Commerce, to speak to them, to have an opportunity for them to speak to you and how they're feeling about what's going on in the district. Rotary clubs, all those different avenues are how we build the trust, we build collaboration, and we move the district forward in the direction that it needs to go in.
Thank you, Mr. Sheffy. Mr. Rayburn.
Well, I've had the privilege of being in a lot of organizations that have gone through tremendous change and growth in my career. Interestingly, I suppose, after the bombing in Khobar in D49, Saudi Arabia, I took over command of our large combat wing as we moved it out into the middle of the Arabian Desert. There was a tremendous amount of change, obviously, in that, and also understanding that the units were rotating in and out, and every week you had new people that were part of your unit as people cycled through. Along with that, I had units in 6 different countries in the Gulf. You've got to get out and listen and talk to your people. You have to realize that it's more than just your organization that is influencing the change and the growth. In that case, it was not only the U.S. Embassy and people on the U.S. side that I may or may not have any authorities over, but also the national governments that had huge impact on your units. You use everything you can in terms of techniques to talk and to communicate with those units, even if they're at distance. And certainly there's formal communications which you must demand work and work well, and then you have to fight for informal communications. And that's key, particularly in a growing area like this. And it involves certainly everybody in the district, certainly the parents, but so many others who have a direct influence on either that growth or the quality and capabilities of our district, business and so on and so forth. So you've got to push for formal communications and demand that that works, use all techniques available, and then go out and get that informal communication.
Thank you, Mr. Rayburn.